YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony 2 Times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to smash that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story. Let's get right into it. Richmond, California, the Bay Area. I remember being young, watching Hood to Hood DVDs. And when they got to Richmond, I was thinking to myself, that's a small city, but they super active. And over the years, I have learned a lot of hitters have allegedly came from Richmond. With its small population, the number of murders a year is actually more than big cities when you break it down. And according to sources, in 2009, the streets of Richmond was going crazy with hits and crews trying to get their licks back. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we will be discussing the case of Joseph Fatter Blacknell, who was labeled at the time a top hitter from his hood, the Easter Hill Boyz. As Joe was growing up, he recalled in an interview all he remembered around him since an early age was violence and people losing their life from family and friends. So that alone told him the streets were cold and dangerous and he had to be tough. From beefs escalating from school fights to neighborhoods blicking at each other, things would get super real when one of Joe's friends was hit back in 2006. Shawnee Bo Melson was 16 years old and the alleged member of the Easter Hill Boyz. While standing outside of a store, someone allegedly drove by, letting off shots, striking Shawnee Bo in the head, unfortunately leaving him gone. As Joseph said, he arrived 10 minutes later to see his friend laid out and not moving. Then according to sources, the alleged shooter was tied to another crew who was allies with Easter Hill's ops called Backstreets. The gangs would go back and forth on MySpace, taunting each other. Then an up-and-coming Bay Area rapper named Marcus Russell, who had ties to Joseph's ops, was coming back from a photo shoot when a van pulled up and the shooter fired several shots with a high-powered rifle, killing Marcus. But it was also a young woman in the car with the aspiring rapper, and she was struck as well, but would survive. The hit was a big deal, a shooting on I-580 highway by Bayview Avenue exit. The surviving witness in the streets were all pointing fingers, saying Joe and Easter Hill did it for payback. But it wouldn't end there. About 6 months later, on the 3-year anniversary of the death of Joe's friend Shawnee Bo, Easter Hill would allegedly strike again on a shooting and carjacking spree that left people wounded, including a man whose car was shot up over 29 times with his 10-year-old niece in the vehicle with him. Fortunately, no one was fatally wounded. Joe's name was popping up in the streets as the main hitter and enforcer for Easter Hill, and Richmond police was on his heels. Joe at the time was only 18 years old, but had already made a name for himself, with authorities being caught with weapons and taking them on chases. But after the crime spree, that same day, Richmond PD had Joe trapped on top of a 2-story house on Huffman Boulevard in South Richmond. And he was taken into custody, charged with 2 attempts and 1 murder charge. While awaiting trial, the DA painted a picture of Joe being a bloodthirsty hitter, only caring about revenge. But in the jailhouse interview, Joe stated he wasn't mad at the police or the young lady that testified. He felt like the DA was making her do that, which she was later moved out of state for her safety. He was hoping to beat the case and become a better father. But 3 years after being arrested at trial with over 40 supporters, Joe was found guilty and sentenced to over 200 years in prison. His father, family, and friends were outraged as they said the DA were trying to railroad Joe. This was 2012. In 2019, Joe filed for an appeal, but his sentence will remain the same. More of this story, we become products of our environment, or even members of hoods in our environment. And in all the hits and attempts in this story, everyone was targeted because of affiliation, and the cycle continued. Don't be a big name and top hitter for genocides, because even if you are innocent, once they want you, it's over. So we gotta remember, we gotta succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Man, crazy story, you feel me? Rest in peace to Marcus Russell, you know, messed up situation. And they basically was saying there was a back and forth going on between 2 groups. And you know, this years ago, They said they was beefing on MySpace, going back and forth. So this been going on in the streets, you feel me? But they was trying to say Joe was one of the top hitters from the Easter Hill Boys. He was a shot caller, and a lot of people were saying his name. You know, they say he was very active. The young lady who was in the car with Marcus, she pointed them out. She said it was definitely him who did the hit, but a lot of people in the community was saying they were just trying to get him out the streets. You know, when your name ring bells like that and you got a lot of pull and a lot of rank, they do be trying to get you out the streets, you know. I mean, only him and the Most High know if he innocent or not, but you know, he tried to give his time back on the pill, and that ain't happened. And at the time, it was a few more dudes that got arrested too, because there was a lot of back and forth retaliation shootings going on. And they said a car got hit over 29 times with a 10-year-old girl in there, but fortunately, no bullet struck her. She was straight, you know what I mean? So that's a blessing. But man, situations like this, and what he said in his jailhouse interview, like he been saying people get hit since he was young. You know, he pulled up on the scene after his best friend got hit, you feel me? And the police was kicking his body, and he seen his body not moving, you know, and they threw somebody's coat over his face. That's a traumatizing experience, and some people never come back from that, you know. Like I said, I don't condone what people do. I don't condone people going out hitting each other, going back and forth, because like I said, it ain't nothing but genocides. It's a never ending cycle. It ain't gonna never end. You take one of mine, I take two of yours, I take four of yours. It's just back and forth. But man, you gotta think, when people go through stuff like that, you know, it make their mind go on another level. It's like you on survival mode, because you feel like they took one of mine, I gotta take theirs, and I know if they took him, they'll take me. So a lot of people feel like I'ma strike first and ask questions later. But man, this was an interesting story, because like I said, I've been following, you know, Richmond, the Bay Area, California, the hyphy scene, all that. And I was into that when I was young. It was just real interesting to me, the way they carried themselves, the way they talked, they swag. And Richmond was one of them places on hood to hood, North Richmond to be exact, where they were saying how small they was, but they were saying how powerful they was as a group, because everybody stuck together. Now, I don't know if that's still the case, because this was years ago. This was about 2006, 2007, when I used to watch them DVDs. But yeah, man, y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think about this story, man. Shout out to Richmond, California. This your boy Tony 2 Times. Love y'all, fam. I'm out.